Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Andrea, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Andrea, and welcome, everyone. Our broadcast date today is Sunday, November the 5th, and the time changed overnight. My goodness, have you ever noticed how everything is changing all the time in this world? The time change kind of feels sort of random these days. Why that happens based on some kind of good idea that happened maybe like 100 years ago, and we're still doing this. But I hope that everyone appreciated that extra hour of sleep. I know I did. And other things are changing a lot in the weather also. Here in Central Virginia, literally a week ago, we were having highs in the 80s, and it went from that overnight to highs in the 40s. So just so much change going on. Here's a little joke that I found from George Carlin on change. It's just a one-liner. Just when I discovered the meaning of life, they changed it. So I really liked that one. And here's a quote that I found from comedian and writer Amy Poehler. The only thing we can depend on in life is that everything changes. The seasons, our partners, what we want and need. We hold hands with our high school friends and swear to never lose touch, and then we do. Change is the only constant. Your ability to navigate and tolerate change and its painful uncomfortableness directly correlates to your happiness and general well-being. So that was a quote from Amy Poehler. And it's true, isn't it? From the perspective of our human eyes in the material world, everything changes, right? Times change, seasons change. On Tuesday, we have elections, and everything will change. So today, the way we look and feel changes, right? We know that, when we look in the mirror 10 years from now, we will have changed, right? And sometimes these things happen over years. Sometimes change happens in an instant. Sometimes it's exhausting, sometimes it's exciting, sometimes it's scary, sometimes it's delightful, right? Now, we do know that there are things that do not change, and we'll talk about that later. Right now, I'm leaning into talking about change in the material world, in our human nature. And we always know that we want to do a good job taking care of ourselves as things change, because change can trigger within us fear, discomfort, conflict, loss, all of these things. So one of the themes we've had at Unity of Fredericksburg for 2023 has been covering the foundations of unity. So when talking about change, I'm going to be referring to content from this lovely book, Eye of the Storm by Gary Simmons. And so the title is The Eye of the Storm, and then the subtitle is Embracing Conflict, creating peace. And a lot of times when change is coming up, it involves conflict, doesn't it? And being able to resolve into a mindset of peace and being able to be flexible and resilient in that practice is so useful for us. So have you ever noticed that when things change in your world, your brain will often perceive that change as a threat? Have you noticed that? Yeah, that's because our brain likes to know what to expect. It doesn't necessarily like surprises. Now, our brains are wonderfully agile at being responsive and reactive when things change, but that doesn't mean that that initial reaction is, ooh, I like this. No, it generally involves some adapting, and some of us do that more fluidly than others. In general, our brain or the ego or the personality looks out at the world, at the outer world, and is always asking and assessing, asking, am I safe? Do I matter in whatever circumstance is coming up? So you can imagine that when things change, that the first instinct of the ego, the personality, the brain is to protect everything we have and continue to be in that assessing mode. Am I safe? Do I matter? Now, this is all what happens on the level of the brain, the ego. So what the key part of the eye of the storm, what the eye of the storm suggests, asks us to do, rather than asking, am I safe? Do I matter? Is to affirm, nothing and no one is against me. Nothing and no one is against me. Now, you might imagine that the human brain might balk at that and say, what are you talking about? So let me read a little quote from this book for you. I forgot to do my glasses, but they're nearby. We'll see if I need them. So here's a quote from Gary Simmons in Eye of the Storm. You cannot experience your wholeness believing that someone or something is against you. You cannot experience inner peace when you are worried that something isn't right with your world. As students of truth, we must eventually reconcile ourselves to the principle that there is no force in the universe which opposes the life each of us is meant to live. So let's look a little bit more at that. So Gary Simmons refers to this as principle, and principle is something that doesn't change, that we can always rely on. So what he's saying is that nothing and no one is against me is absolute truth, that we hold in our divine nature at the level of spirit. So how does this make sense? Nothing and no one is against me is an affirmation rooted in oneness. So if we believe, as we express pretty much every week here at Unity of Fredericksburg, we do, that we believe in the one presence and one power without opposite, then divine logic just shows us that if you believe in that oneness, then there's no way that anything or any person or any situation can be against us. Everything in my world is here for me to work with, grow with, learn from, experience. So let's repeat it again and see, just notice how it sits with you, where you are right here, right now. So just listen. Nothing and no one is against me. So just notice, just observe, just witness your response. Now, I encourage you, don't judge yourself. Like, oh, I'm doing good with that. I'm not, I give myself a C+. No, just notice. Just notice, how does it sit with you? And it may sit with you in different ways, with different areas of your life. Some areas you might flow easily with change and others not so much, but just notice. So let me say it again. Nothing and no one is against me. How does that settle in your body? Is there a sense of ease about it in your body, or do you find it bringing up tension in different parts of your body? How does it feel in your heart? Do you feel your heart resonating with warmth with that statement, or do you start feeling the echoes of like wounds that haven't healed yet? Does that come up when you hear nothing and no one is against me? How does your mind welcome it? Does your mind welcome it with ease? Does it fit in with the paradigm of your beliefs? Or does your brain immediately start asking questions and say, what about this? What about that? So I encourage you, no matter how it is that you are responding to this statement, this principle of nothing and no one is against me, that you be gentle with yourself. Because it's not easy, because our human brains, our ego, actually believe in separation. Our brains believe in separation. And so that's why we are constantly engaged in spiritual practice, because our brains are out here to navigate this outer world, and it believes in separation and helps manage that for us, right? So when we say nothing and no one is against me, well, the brain's first reaction is to look for proof of what it already believes, which is separation, and look for people and things that are against us. And so what we're doing here, what we're talking about, is this toggling that we do in this life between our human nature and our divine nature. And we will always be engaged in this because we are 100% human all the time, and we're 100% divine all the time. So when change comes up and we find ourselves reacting in different ways, we need to remind ourselves that we are spirit, we are divine, we have divine qualities and abilities that enable us to navigate change from the higher self, rather than just out here in the chaos and the muck. We talk about the 12 powers, which are divine capacities that we have of life and release and strength and order and wisdom, love, power, enthusiasm, faith, will, understanding, and imagination. These are things that never change, are fully available to us all the time when we can take that moment, tap into it, and remember what we are. Our brain, our ego is out here managing who we are in the world. We're talking about what we are, so that in the midst of change, in the midst of what Gary Simmons would call the storm of mind, the storm of heart, the storm of circumstance, our best first step is always to remind ourselves that we are spirit. So let me read you another quote from Eye of the Storm. Let me see which one. I've got like little tags here. All right. From Eye of the Storm. Because you are a spiritual being, because your wholeness is, you can direct your attention and awareness to your center, your spiritual self, and bring the attributes of the center to the experience of the storm. So, how can we practice this? Out here in our human lives, how can we practice reminding ourselves of this with ease and with grace? So I have a few suggestions for you to consider. So when change comes along and you feel yourself stressing, try being curious. Try asking, what is this about? What good is there for me to find here? Or I always say, if you can't find the good, if you can't see it anywhere, then maybe the question is, can I be the energy of good in this circumstance? What is here for me to learn? Maintaining a curious state of mind allows us to be open for opportunity. So just ask, just observe. Don't force yourself into anything. But when that situation shows up that it's like, ugh, I didn't want to have to deal with this. If you can take a breath and just ask yourself some questions, be curious. Be curious. And as we know, change goes at its own pace. So don't be pushing anything. Just ask, just observe, and support yourself as you go through the process of adapting to whatever it is that has shown up in your life. So that's one. Number two, when change comes along, try encouraging yourself. So have you noticed that so far in your life, you have made it through every worst day that you've ever experienced? Have you ever noticed that? Yay, you. Look at that. You will handle the next change that comes along with more calm, more wisdom, more confidence than you did the last one. And when challenges that you faced before show up again, notice you're in a better place than you were last time. You're able to handle it a little bit better. You have more tools in your spiritual tool bag. Things might still be hard and you will adapt, but just notice. Congratulate yourself. Encourage yourself rather than just diving into catastrophizing or whatever your pattern might be when change comes up, just lying in dread or whatever it is, however it is you do it. How about you try noticing, hey, I can do this. I did it last time. I've been through worse. Look, we can handle this. All right, so that's the second one. My third suggestion is, and you won't be surprised by this, my friends, when change comes along, try being grateful. Even if it doesn't seem to make sense. I think I've told you about this before, but when my oldest child was diagnosed with a brain tumor back in 1999, I had a few tools, a few Unity tools in my toolbox, and what I used was the tool of gratitude. I made myself a rule that if I couldn't say thank you, I wasn't saying anything at all. And this, of course, a lot of it was in my self-talk. But I would just sit in the stillness and bring to mind everything that I could think of in a really scary, scary situation to be thankful for. And for those of you who might not know, my daughter is well, and she works as a nurse these days, and she's busy taking everything she's learned in her life and helping other people. So back then, when I was kind of forcing myself to recognize things to be grateful for, the reason I share it with you is that it worked. It helped me keep my mind from spiraling into catastrophe thinking. It helped me recognize all the ways in which good was showing up and moving through the situation, no matter how scary it was. Now, when you've been through something really difficult, or even if you're witnessing, say, something in the news where you're watching coverage and there's a big storm, have you ever noticed that in the direst of circumstances, in big drastic change, things to be grateful for show up, and they show up powerfully? You might say that when you're in those kind of extreme situations, you notice them even more than you do in your regular day, just getting your coffee, going to work, doing whatever it is you do. So in those big situations, you see, I remember what Mr. Rogers used to always talk about, the helpers that show up, people who are so different than each other, and all of a sudden they're stepping in and helping each other. So helpers show up, things that are needed materialize out of thin air. And so recognizing the good, practicing gratitude, even if you just really don't feel like it, eases your path through change. So these are 3 things that we can practice in our human lives when change is happening and it's uncomfortable. So we try being curious, try being encouraging, try being grateful. And most of all, first of all, we remind ourselves, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. So my title for today is Change Happens. It's okay. And it is okay. Things have changed in the past, and it's okay. Things will change in the future, and it's okay. Things are changing at this very moment, and it's okay. You have everything you need to navigate the change. You're not only okay, you're good, you're great. Change happens, and it's okay. So we're going to take all that and we're going to move into our time of meditation. I'm going to shift us there by starting with a quote from Gary Simmons in The Eye of the Storm. So prepare yourselves, my friends, by taking a few breaths, just breathing in and out. Just settle into your physical space, into the body. And let's listen to this. As I mentioned before, the subtitle for this book is Embracing Conflict and Creating Peace. So this is all about being the peacemaker in your life for yourself. Here are the words of Gary Simmons. You are called to be a peacemaker as a pathway to God and as a demonstration of your wholeness and worth. The entire universe supports you in making peace wherever you are and in every storm that comes upon you. No one is against you. Make your pathway to God a demonstration of this truth, for blessed are you who have been called to make peace in a world that longs to know its wholeness and worth. So let's just take the energy of that and the energy of the theme of the Eye of the Storm book. Nothing and no one is against me. And take that into the sacred space of the stillness together right now. And as we begin to bring our awareness back to this moment, let's do so gently. Do so by taking a few breaths and wiggling your toes. Feel this energy of peace and this knowing of nothing and no one is against me. Feel that energy of peace moving up through the body, through all the muscles and cells of the body. To bring your focus up through the legs, up through your seat, up through your core. Let's take a few moments right here to just expand that energy in the heart space. Nothing and no one is against me. Everything that shows up in my life is here for me. Just feel the warmth of that in your heart space. And let's continue moving that energy up through your neck, into your head, and just expand it in your consciousness. Kind of like you're doing house cleaning, my friends. So every thought and feeling and belief that is out of alignment with this truth of nothing and no one is against me, just see it brightening up. Shine the light into those dark spaces. Feel the expansive truth and energy of this principle, this foundation of peace that is what we are in spirit. So we'll close with an affirmation. I like to put my hand on my heart and let's say this affirmation together. I'll say it for you. I navigate change with ease and grace, and I am grateful. Say it with me, friends. I navigate change with ease and grace, and I am grateful. Let's do it one more time with vim and vigor, right? I navigate change with ease and grace, and I am grateful. So I am, my friends, and so are you. So it is. And that's it for me today. I will hand it back to my friend, Andrea.
Thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching, and